Hello, welcome back to... Whoa, I don't have a logo. We do. Wait. I swear, it's Reaper Pro Tips. Welcome back. I am Anne. We have disembodied hands. Quindy is back. Yay. Oh, we missed you so much, Quindy. Quindy and John and maybe Justin is out there in the ether, but I kind of doubt his existence at this point. I kind of do. I had one green shirt, by the way, to wear today for St. Patrick's Day, and it is my original ReaperCon 2004. This is the first ever ReaperCon, guys. First ever ReaperCon shirt. So that's the only green shirt that I owned for St. Patrick's. Gotta get my collar all set up. There we go. But yes. Hey, Kaz, thanks for the resub. My gosh, it's almost the triple subiversary. I've never sang a triple subiversary before. But you're almost there. Dang. Hey, Typo Negative's cool. I liked them. I liked them in college. I was a goth girl. A non-black haired goth girl. I would never dye my hair, but you know. Oh no, David Weir. Yes. Only shamrocks, I'm informed. Only shamrocks, not four-leaf clovers. So you better get that four-leaf clover off of there, Mobrock. That was what David has Irish teammates for his tech team. They have a headquarters in Dublin. And he apparently sent them a four-leaf clover image last year, and they trashed him. So he informed me, one, it's not St. Patty, it's St. Paddy's Day. So whoever put that in the chat earlier, you are absolutely correct. And that's because the Gaelic form of Patrick is Padraig. Or that's probably a horrible spelling, but you get the idea. It's the three-leaf shamrock, not the four-leaf clover. They were very, very explicit on that. So, yeah, none of us knew how to do it. Actually, that's not true. People did remember the tools thing, and they did remember the Patreon thing. And I think Nomad Zeke or somebody went and dragged my actual YouTube thing out. So, yeah, I'm about to mail my taxes to Dave. I feel your pain, Iffy. Hey there, POTUS. How's it going? But yeah. So... Happy St. Patrick's. I decided I'm going to cheat this year because I have an Instant Pot. I'm going to do Instant Pot corned beef instead of slow cooking it all day. I decided, because putting it in the slow cooker timing did not work well with my schedule. So I decided to go with the Instant Pot instead. And I was planning to do the vegetables separately anyway. So really no reason not to use the Instant Pot at that point. Padraig. Yeah, right. Exactly. Either way. Yeah, right. Different. Although they're related, right? But they are different for sure. Pronunciations. Just like you can definitely hear the difference between Scottish and Irish accents, you can definitely, I think, hear the difference between Scottish Gaelic and Irish Gaelic. I decided not to put my terrible Irish accent on for you guys today. So you can thank the gods for that. Yeah, that's exactly what I did, Quindy. I was like, my crock pot got cracked. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just get an Instant Pot because I can use it as a crock pot. And yeah, I use it. I love it for pork. I just made carnitas last week. And it was just brilliant. It's just brilliant. You just throw a chunk of pork shoulder in there with some, chopped up with some seasoning, and you can sear it or not. But it's great. It's fall apart pork in like an hour. It's wonderful. It's just so good for that stuff. I made ramen with it. I made, I do an Asian kind of Indo-Asian pork chop recipe that I love. Also, it's really good for pork and lamb. Yeah, exactly. Throw stuff in a pot, move on with your life. Exactly. Not feeling it today. Yeah, I got all excited because this is the one time of year I'm permitted to do it. And I bought all of the makings for Rubens, except for the bread. That's on David. But yeah, hi, Ty Love. Nice to meet you. Yeah, she's getting there. She's like, we got distracted by talking about St. Patty's Day supper, but St. Patrick's Day supper. But I am going to work on stuff today. What shall we work on? But yeah, she's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with her. I'm glad you like her. This was a promo mini. She's Bones USA. That's her item number, and she's sculpted by Christine Van Patten, Rainbow Sculptor. But she was a promo mini for, I think, January this year that Reaper was giving out for free. So, with orders. And she's just too cute. So, I'm hoping there will be more Harefolk in the new Bones Kickstarter, which is launching at the end of this month on the 31st. For those who have not seen this yet, if you order from Reaper right now, you get free mini. You get a free promo mini. Actually, there is a 95% chance because sometimes they run out and they don't have time to run and get a new box. So Ron said most orders, the vast majority of orders, should be getting a free promo mini, and it's one of 5 different preview minis. And they're all, when you fit them all together, they're an adventuring party and a goblin. So. On the back of that is a QR code that will lead you to the website so you can get notified when the Kickstarter launches. And yeah, if you haven't done a Reaper Kickstarter yet, if you want a bunch of minis for real cheap, like, just go for it, because it is the least expensive way to get a bunch of stuff for your D&D game, or a bunch of minis to practice on if you're just starting in with the hobby, because the core set usually goes over 100 figures for like $120 or something. It's really a good deal. Far less than $2 a mini. How about that? And it is worldwide. So yes. Oh, Colcannon. Not that I don't know what Colcannon is, because I'm not like Scottish. All right. So what should I do today? I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I do feel like I need to get that belt and the crossbow figured out. And I've kind of stuck myself in a corner with that, unless maybe I'll go gray with the crossbow, actually. Like grayed out wood, kind of weathered. Maybe I'll do that. I want it to be a little different from her fur, and I want it to not be different from her bodice, so I'm not going to do it black. So I'm going to go brown. Let's go. She's already got black and brown in her fur. I should do something middle of the road brown. She's got pretty bright colors on her, so I don't want to go with a grayish brown, really. I think I'm going to go with russet, but I'm going to mix something into it. I think I'll mix polished leather into it and see what I get here, and see what that works. Although I may need to add a cream color into it to kind of bleach it out a little bit. I have blonde hair here. I might use that. Really, I'm kind of fumbling around in the dark because I don't want a real bright leather. Let's see. Where's my pokey tool? I have a clogged bottle. Pardon me. Pardon me while I find my pokey tool to unclog it. There we go. But yes, I have no idea what is in the Kickstarter because I've not watched any of the previews, so I'm very excited. I think that's the way I like to do it. Surprises are always more fun. Except for Bob the Headless Limbless Dragon that Ron sent me. Since I have Bob, I assume Bob is in the Kickstarter, but since I don't have Bob's, limbs or head, it's a little bit, anticlimactic there because I don't really know what Bob looks like. I'm supposed to be getting limbs and a head at some point. Mashed potatoes with cooked sliced cabbage or kale. Oh, okay. Yeah, I assume with butter. So it's pretty much the corned beef and cabbage thing we do, only mashed together. And with some kale. If you put kale in it. Or cabbage. All right, I get it. Yeah. All the butter. That's what I thought. I love butter. So I am with you. I'm with you in spirit on that then. All right, we're going to try about 3 drops of russet brown. We're going to do just a little bit. The reason I'm not just putting blonde hair in it, by the way, is that blonde hair has a lot of white, and it's going to bleach out that color a lot. And I think I want to start just a little bit richer. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this polished leather in, which is a really intense yellowy brown color. And then I'm going to mix it up. Where's my mixing brush? Mixing brush. There it is, hiding. It does not want to be mixing today. All right, that's very, very yellow. I am going to put, I'm going to grab leather brown, actually. Just add a little bit of leather brown. Where is it? There it is. So let's do a mix of russet and leather. I have a little bit of that polished leather in there. Oh, thanks, Madstorm. Yeah, I've been painting for Reaper for a very long time. I started working for Reaper in 2003, so next year will be my 20-year anniversary working for Reaper Miniatures. And for the first part of that, I was staff painter. And I was already a national and international award-winning painter before I signed on with Reaper. So I've been painting for a very long time. So it's not talented. It's busting your butt over the course of a long time. But yeah, it's still, it doesn't really feel like busting your butt when you enjoy it. So, but yes, bonjour. I speak un peu de français. Je parle un peu de français. Un petit peu. It's been so long. And my accent is atrocious. I actually told David I would like to go to France in a year or two just for an excuse to brush up on my French, because I'm kind of sad that I've lost most of it. I remember how to tell people I don't really speak a lot of French. That's pretty much what I remember. Sometimes an odd word will pop back up from my memory, but yeah, I would like to refresh on it though. I would like to get a bunch of it back. When I was younger, I always wanted to be multilingual, but then my interests took me away from linguistics toward art, and I ended up excelling in painting tiny people instead of, let me get in focus here. Tiny people and bunny people instead of learning many languages. I'm sure I would be making a lot more money if I had become multilingual, but oh well, you follow your heart. So this brown is a bit different from the bunny brown, and that what it's doing is it's making her appear less intense as far as her fur color. It's making her fur color look a bit more natural because we're using this rich brown here. If I had gone with a gray brown, that would actually have punched her fur in the other direction and would cause her fur to look more saturated and brighter and richer. So, Rumbly Thumps. It would be a good kitten name. It would especially be a good kitten name for one of those really, really like kind of fatty kittens, like big floofy kitten that really, stumbles over its own paws a lot. That would be Rumbly Thumps. And that would turn into like the 25-pound Persian or something, or Maine Coon. That would be a great name for one of those big kiddos. Because then they'd be trying to jump up on bookshelves and falling down, and it would make a sound just like their name. Oh my. All right, Quindy, well, only you know how many ridiculous names Bug Lips can absorb. The rest of us do not. If I tried to call David something like that, I would get the look. So just base coating here to get a basis down, and then I am going to grab a darker brown and do some shading. Then we'll bring it back up. And I may choose to mute it then. We've got two ways you can go with this. If you want to double down on the fact that the brown right now of the crossbow is brighter than her fur tone, then you would highlight it up using something with a lot of yellow or orange. But if you wanted to kind of knock it back a little bit and maybe make it look worn and weathered, then you'd go in the gray direction and probably use either driftwood brown or one of the stone colors mixed into this brown to take it back the other direction and minimize the warm tones. So it's all what you'd like to do. Now I'm going to color her belt the same color, and we're going to work with it also. We may not go the same direction though. Oh, Valandar, that's funny. It's an upgrade. See, we missed you, Quindy. We missed you. We don't get this level of comedy. Like, Justin and John just kind of, like, I can hear them virtually rolling their eyeballs at us, right? And then they just kind of like, oh, just let them go. We don't need to watch these people. But with Quindy, we get actual involvement and funnies. I appreciate this. This is good. I also need to lighten her tail and the back of her legs. So I didn't tackle the back of her fur very much, except for her ears, which have a beautiful, really fine fur texture on them, if you can see that. I don't know. Sometimes the camera gets close enough for you to see the soft texture, and sometimes it doesn't. Some of the subtleties are lost, much as I love this camera, and it's better than anything else I found for mini painting, for sure, as far as being able to see exactly what's going on. Yeah, this is sculpted by Christine Van Patten, also going under the name Rainbow Sculptor. And so she likes, I think she has a liking for anthropomorphic animals. So Tea Time, that's who made the mini. And then I'm just putting a paint job on it. But yeah, she's a very talented sculptor. She's done a lot of beautiful things for Reaper. Very prolific sculptor as well. And a generally cool person. Used to be a painter, and then spent like 6 or 8 months just like totally diving into ZBrush, and emerged pretty much pro quality. She just threw her whole self into it. And the next thing we knew, she went from Christine, entering in the painting contest, to Christine sculpting things for Reaper. And it took like less than a year. Like, she just really hard committed, which is what I always tell you guys. It's like, if you really want to get good at mini painting or sculpting, you have to care about it. If you have the passion and you put in the time, you can get very good in a very short period of time. Yeah, she told me she didn't spend too much time on the putty, I thought, Melandar. Because ZBrush, she felt, was more intuitive for her. At least that's what I heard her. That's what I think she told me like a couple of years back. Yeah. It has a stupid curve, but there are a lot of resources out there now, Magnetic Gumby. Daryl, who now sculpts for Reaper, who used to be my paint department second in command, Daryl pretty much said there's so many tutorials and Patreons and videos on YouTube and stuff like that now for ZBrush that you can get a working knowledge of it much easier than you used to. Bribe the gym for extra skill points. Christine has drive. Like, I think that's what, and I listen to like the book Talent is Overrated, and I think what they don't talk about, because they're like, it's not genetic, you can learn anything, most abilities can be taught. And they're right, but I think what they don't really talk about is that weird quality called drive, that where you do have the energy and the impetus and the desire to push yourself in something. But in reality, you don't even need drive to get good. It's just going to take you longer if you don't if you don't push yourself. You can still get really good. Despite it, so you did a primer and your paint is not sticking. How thick is your paint? Like, are you using, I guess the first question then is, Madstorm, are you using a wet palette or are you using a well palette? That does make a difference for base coat, believe it or not. Yeah, see, Nerf? Yeah, Nerf, totally. I wasted a lot of time early in my life, and I always tell people, like, I've been painting for an obscene amount of time at this point. If you count from the first time I picked up a brush as a kid to paint an actual miniature, we're talking 40 years here. This is a long time. But most of my ability I gained over the course of only 6 months, which is when I quit my real job and started painting full-time, my first try at freelancing. I didn't do well at it because I wasn't organized enough and I wasn't, like, focused enough. But it taught me a lot, and it got me to the point, it got me from doing good gaming quality minis to doing national competition winning minis. That's how much I improved over that 6 months. So you can take the slow route or you can take the quick route, and how you want to do it is up to you. And Madstorm, if you are using a wet palette, not one of these, the reason I asked that question to give you help is that if you're using a wet palette, water is constantly leaching up into your paint. If you're trying to put like thick paint down on your wet palette, the water will leach up into it and it'll thin it. And if your paint thins too much over certain undercoats, although it's weird that it's doing that for the resin, but you can get beading on certain primers, like where it doesn't stick. In which case, my advice would be probably to get like kind of a separate palette or tile where you can put the paint down. You still want to thin it a little. Like my base coats are usually about 4 to 6 drops of paint and 1 drop of water is what I do from my bottle here. And that is good enough to give me kind of a thin base coat. I like thin base coat. I think that switching to wet palette is cool as long as you already have internalized paint consistency knowledge, Nerfed. Like what I tell people is get both, experiment with both. But if you're having trouble understanding paint consistency or getting a feel for it, use the well. Figure out your ratios, get a feel for how the paint acts and feels at different ratios. Then when you go to wet palette, you're going to understand that. Like your gut is going to know more what you're aiming for as far as paint consistency to get like layering or textures or whatever, right? Like now I can go to a wet palette. It still like frustrates the heck out of me because I'm a control freak and like to keep my paint at exactly the consistency I want it, which the well does for me and the wet palette does not. But everybody's different. So I always tell people start with both, play with both. If you're having paint consistency issues, go to the well and then transition to the wet palette once you have a better gut understanding of what paint consistency for different techniques should be. Yeah, that's true, old primer. I was going to bring that up, GamerMac, because I had that happen with, especially if it's a very hard enamel primer with not a lot of tooth on it. I've had that happen. Right, exactly. Yeah, people are hard on themselves. Everybody's way too hard on themselves. Yeah, but you know, if you've got a decent grasp of it, Nerf, then you're just going to learn it through the wet palette then. It may take you a little longer to do so because you're going to you have to mix every brush full of paint as you go, but you'll get there. I mean, it just takes time. Yeah, that's for sure, Gumby. I mean, you guys know what I do. I use cling wrap and put a drop of water in the wells around my paint to keep it good. And that's usually good for like 2 days. But I mean, we talked about wasting paint yesterday. I'm going to mix up my new color while I'm babbling at you guys. So I'm going to use walnut here. Walnut brown 9136. It's high coverage, so I may do a 50-50 mix of it with my base here. But yeah, I got over the thought of wasting paint when I realized how many drops were in each of these bottles. And then I was like, you know, really realistically, I go through a bottle. It takes me like 6 months to go through a bottle of pure white, even though I use pure white almost every day. And I decided that I didn't care so much because, I mean, there are certain colors, and maybe a set of 5 or 6 colors that I go through really fast. Really fast. And that would be, I can even tell you which ones they are. Walnut brown is one. Let's see. The colors that Anne goes through like crazy. Rich leather is another. Pure white is probably the one I go through more than anything because I do a lot of mixing and I like to hand mix my highlights. Probably, depending, but Lantern Yellow's up there. And probably russet brown. So a lot of earth tones, essentially. And what these colors, actually, what I use all of these colors for, NMM gold. So whenever I'm doing non-metallic metal gold, I'm using every single one of these. And I do a lot of NMM. So that's why. But I also just use these colors for lighteners. We're building highlights. I use this not only for gold, but for leather and for brown fur and all sorts of stuff. Russet brown is one of my go-tos for leather because I prefer dark leather over light because I want a more organic color that's not going to clash with anything. And then walnut is often used as a liner if I want a very bold line. So these colors I go through, I maybe go through a bottle of this every 6 months. Maybe more like with these guys, the two browns, I probably'd say every 9 months to a year, and probably every year to 2 years on these. And everything else, like I've had bottles of paint, the rest of my bottles of paint, almost nothing. Like I've been here in California now for what, almost, I've been here almost exactly 2 years. And I've only had to replace these colors and I think 3 others, and some of those weren't really replacements so much as grabbing an extra bottle. So I don't believe in wasting paint because I paint a lot, but it takes me, I'm still got plenty of paint. So, sometimes I feel we get the scarcity thing in our head where we're like, oh no, I'm using too much paint and I'm not utilizing it. I just wasted 5 drops or whatever. But in reality, when you've got 400 drops of paint in your bottle, it's incremental. Like that's a penny, 2 pennies worth of paint. So I guess that's why I switched out of that mindset. And I don't really feel like I'm wasting paint at this point. If I get some use out of it, I'm good. No, I've switched away from brown liner for a lot. Iffy. Hold on, we have people talking and I've missed it because I was holding forth. Here we go. Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, I created Reaper MSP. That was my job at Reaper Enrieth. That was actually on my job description the day I signed on for Reaper, which was April 1st, because April Fool's Day is the best work anniversary, in 2003. So in 2004, for ReaperCon, I'm wearing my first ever ReaperCon shirt. ReaperCon 2004, this was the t-shirt. I have the t-shirt, I was there. We had samples with taped on labels of the paint line. And I spent pretty much the last 15 years before I moved out here hand mixing every batch of that. And I did all the new colors, all the new formulations. If you have a paint chemistry question, I'm your person. Now, hold on. I need to get back to Madstorm here. Okay, so let's try to use like simpler English. Too much water, Madstorm. Too much water. The wet palette brings more water into your paint. So your paint gets more watery, and paint that has more water does not stick as well. That's probably part of it, and I would use thicker paint, less water, if you can. And see if that fixes it. See if that helps. Hopefully I broke it down enough. I know how hard it is when you can't speak the language. But yeah, brown liner, I don't use as much anymore, Iffy, because I find that half of the time I'm like reaching for Rogue Shadow, or I'm reaching for blue liner, or I'm reaching for walnut if I want a stronger line. And then, yeah, the other line I use is I like the Scale Color Artist, the tube acrylics. I really, really like those for my own painting these days. Huh. Maybe the primer then. Yeah. It almost has to be the undercoat. If the undercoat is bad. What kind of undercoat? What brand? Like, I wonder if it's... Oh, okay. Yeah, I talk fast. I know. Yes. if you use paint that is thicker and it still does not stick, I would blame the primer, the undercoat. There has to be something happening with the undercoat if the paint is like out of the bottle thick and still will not stick. Or, there is one more thing. Shake the paint very well. So, shake it up. And if you have not used the color before, or if you have not used the color a lot, when paint sits for long, it will separate and it will be watery and it will not, it's not fully mixed. And so it may not stick well. So you could try that. Jet dry, whoa. I don't know about the chemistry with jet dry, real POTUS. I'm not sure. Like, jet dry definitely is supposed to break surface tension because it's supposed to, I know that it's supposed to keep water droplets from forming, but I don't know what else is in there chemically, and so I cannot vouch for that. You always got to be careful what you're mixing into paint. Acrylic paint is pretty tolerant these days, but there is stuff that you'll mix in that will not react well with the paint. So if you want to use that, I mean, I personally would just buy Flow Improver because you can mix it 20-1 with water and one bottle lasts forever. But I always prefer, like, I would use dish soap before I would use jet dry, just because I know what is in dish soap and it's gonna act just as well. Oof. Let's see here. Huh. Could be just the colors. Could be all your minis are actually accumulating dust and fuzz, but it just is more visible on that miniature. Otherwise, I don't know, Rex. The only other reason would be if it was carrying a slight charge, but that's almost impossible. So, all right, so I've got darker paint color here. We're going to start shading around here on this crossbow. Tried with no water. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, POTUS, that always I will buy a real art product that's meant to work with paint instead of trying to kind of half-ass it with household products, because I understand that chemistry can be touchy, and you don't know what some of the extra additives are going to do. But back in my college days where I was, cheap and broke, I would, if I had to, I would just use a drop of dish soap in my paint water and just do it that way. It was enough. It's made to break surface tension. Yeah, if it's still not working, Mad Storm, if your resin is shiny, then that is the problem. When you put an undercoat on, it should be matte, no shine, or very little shine. So if you have a shiny undercoat, your paint will not stick. You can spray over the top of the shiny a more dull undercoat, and that should work. Yeah, no idea, Rex. That one's beyond me. Maybe your cat really loves it and sheds on it. I don't know. That's about physics and not about paint chemistry, so I'm not as good there. But it can't be paint chem. Actually there is one thing it could be, but you would probably have noticed it, is sometimes if you use the wrong primer over bones, it can give the model kind of a tacky surface. And when it does that, when you paint over it, you tend to also have paint that feels a little bit sticky, and that could be part of it. But if your miniature does not have that failing, then I cannot help you further. No, brush-on sealer doesn't have enough tooth. For one thing, it's already an acrylic. You're going to need to use a solvent. You need to use a spray crows to stick to a shiny, I think. Thanks for the sub, Madstorm. Yeah, I think maybe Big Apple's right. Maybe you just need to, like, do an exorcism or a sage smudge sticks to stop the mini being possessed. So I'm going to put a shadow underneath here with my half and half walnut and russet brown mix. And I've shaded the interior here because it's up against her body, so it's going to be a little darker. Yep. Well, Matt, I am biased in that I created Reaper's paint line. So I do have to say Reaper Master Series is my pick because that's what I spent 15 years making it. But the other paint line that I like, and if you're used to, well, you're used to the fluid acrylics, right? You said golden fluid. Yeah, so you're probably not wanting a tube paint. I was gonna say my other line of choice is really Scale 75, the Artist Tube, the Scale Color Artist line. I love those things because I love the finish on them. But a Scale doesn't do bad paints otherwise, as far as it goes. I just not, they tend to be a little more matte in their fantasy line, and I don't like that as much, so. But yeah. Let me make sure I've got this. I think that if you have okay, so go off the brush on, guys. If you have a shiny primer, then brush on acrylic is probably not going to work. Because you're going to run into the same problem where the water base doesn't want to stick to the shiny surface. You almost always have to go with a spray, and you may be able to do it with an airbrush if that primer has the right chemical structure. You may be able to do it, but solvent base is probably going to work better because when you spray another coat of a solvent-based primer on top of your original coat, it will reactivate the previous primer's surface a little bit. And the two will kind of bond. That's how you can get away with putting dull coat over the top of a gloss sealer. Aerosol equals solvent equals reactivation equals bonding. Got it? So whenever you run into somebody with Madstorm's problem, where if you've got a shiny coat, don't even mess around with brush on, in my opinion. You might get lucky, but with maybe with an airbrush with the right chemical structure, but it won't stick as well as an aerosol. Oh, okay, Quindy. Let's see here. Oh, your resin is shiny, not your primer. Then I have no idea, Madstorm. If your resin is shiny, if your primer is dull, then I don't know why your paint doesn't stick. I just don't know. If I was there with you, I could probably figure it out. The only other thing I can think of is making sure that your paint is shaken up enough. Or another thing that can happen is after you prime the miniature, if you handle it with your hands, and if you have lots of oils on your fingers, that can give you a problem. But it sounds like your problem may be over the whole figure, in which case, I don't know. All right, I am going to do some quick shading here. I want these grooves to be darker, so I'm just going to paint them in. I already painted that in. I already shaded the underside of the crossbow. I'm going to get the back here. I think I want, there we go, to get a shadow in there. I've got a little bit of white primer showing down there and I want to get it gone. So I'm just going to grab my walnut. Madstorm, if you have a friend who is expert at the hobby, or if you have a local game store where people paint, maybe they can look at your model and understand why your paint is not sticking. Because in person, I think, is going to be able to understand easier. Looking at your model is going to be easier. Because I can't see it, it's hard for me. I can't experiment or see what might work because you're not here. You're in France. So I'm sorry I can't help more. You're not bad. You're not bad. It's not your fault. Never assume it's your fault. It's just learning. The paint is not sticking to the primer. Yeah, I was thinking bad primer. That was my first guess because it can happen. So maybe try a different primer. Maybe the primer you have is not good. Just going to bring in a little bit of walnut here to separate out her hair. Putting this kind of in the grooves, just kind of lining. Except since her hair is already so dark, it doesn't count really as lining. Wow, lots of questions in chat today. No, they tried a thick coat. We've been trying to troubleshoot this, Cujo, for a while. Thanks for the help, though. Also, nice to meet you. I don't think I've seen you before. I'm Anne. I work for Reaper, obviously. This is Reaper Miniatures morning stream. I was their staff painter for many years and also their paint line designer. I designed Reaper Master Series, created it, mixed every batch for 15 years or so. Then I got a boyfriend who is now my fiance, and I moved to California. So now they have somebody else running my paint department. It's no longer my paint department, but I still stream, so I can still talk about the paint chemistry and all that sort of thing. Right now I'm just like kind of putting some colors on this bunny while I'm answering a ton of questions. Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, no problem, Quindy. Anyway, welcome, Cujo. We do this, I'm crazy, so I stream for Reaper every weekday morning. And we do a 6 model rotation. So right now we're on Bunny. Yesterday we were working on Centaur. I was doing, I've been doing some Appaloosa and trying to figure out skin tone that I like. But yeah, we're doing a lot of different stuff. It's a fun show, I think. I hope. I hope it's fun. It's still my baby, Cujo. You are correct. Because when you've made something like that and you've given like 15 years of effort to it, yeah. It's my baby, but I've gotten to the point where it's like, it's not my circus, not my monkeys. Because, it's up to Reaper. It's Reaper's call now, where they take the paint line. I tried to set the paint line up for success. I did everything I could. It's, I think, still a very solid line. It has some chemical differences with a lot of the other lines out on the market right now that still, I believe, make it unique. So I'm pretty proud of it. It's really cool to have, because I've been in this hobby for a very long time, it's very cool to have kind of left a legacy of sorts for the hobby I love. If you want a starter, I like the starter set, which is an 11 color set. But if you are a new painter, you might get more mileage out of the Learn to Paint kits. Matasheen, yeah. The Learn to Paint kits give you 11 colors each and at a discount, and also instructions and minis and a brush. So they're a really good deal. And if you get both Learn to Paint kits, you don't duplicate any colors. So you'll end up with a pretty good starting set. Plus, Rhonda did a very good job on how to paint things. So the first paint kit, the first learn to paint kit is very basic techniques, but then the second one is layering. So layering and glazing. So when you're done with both, you have kind of a good foundation to go from. Spectrum. Huh. Yeah, I don't know if I know that one. Pardon me, I dropped my brush. There we go. Oh, good. I'm glad, Lovrek. I'm glad you got good mileage out of them. Rhonda is really... She wrote them, and she's really good at breaking stuff down. Like, just, like, step by step. Like, she's really, really good at it. Breaking concepts down and everything. So I'm going to put a little bit of shadow here. Just a little bit here. Just kind of because, you know, dirt would probably get caught in these joins. So... I'm not actually going to paint in the wood grain. I'm going to bring the wood grain up through highlighting instead. So really just blocking in my shadows on the undersides here and up against the body so that we have a little bit of variation. Yeah, maybe. You could try that. Otherwise, though, I like the starter set, the 11 color starter set that Reaper sells as a starter set. Those are colors I chose just because they're ones that I use a lot that I find are very high utility. So it's a good starting point if you just want to try out the line. If you haven't gotten into Master Series at all, I would honestly pick up, if you do nothing else, pick up Pure White. Still best white on the market. As far as thinning it and being able to do like underpainting and fine detailing and like, you know, having it, you can thin it down to layering consistency to get a smooth blend and it will not separate. So that's what I wanted when I created it. So it's still, I feel like even when I use Scale 75 tube paint, I still use Pure White. I don't even touch their white. All right, let's see here. And maybe it's just me being biased, but you know, personally, I love it. You can always pick up a tube paint if you want a really bright, like hotter highlight for sure. If you want a very, very bright white. But if you're using it for anything else, like you're creating highlights or you're trying to layer and blend with it, I think the MSP is superior. Yes, long live Pure White. I feel like they are. When I was painting for competition before I came to work for Reaper Cujo, what we wanted more than anything, and this was like 20 years ago, just to give you to date myself. But what we wanted more than anything was a white we could thin down to the point where we could get really good layering with it. And everything would fall out of solution. Like Vallejo would not stay in solution when you thinned it that much. So my first task, this is actually one of the first colors I formulated for MSP, but my task was to find a base and pigment set that I could thin down to that point and it would not separate out. Like I wouldn't have to stop and keep mixing every time I wanted to reload my brush. So that's what Pure White is. If that is something that you think would be useful for you, I highly recommend picking up a bottle and messing around with it. I when I want this to be layerable, I mix it 1 drop of Pure White to 2.5 drops. So about 2 drops of Pure White to 5 drops of water. So you can mix it 2 to 5 and it won't separate. Alrighty, I need to get a highlight color built up here. Let's see here. Let's get some leather brown. And maybe I want to go up a little bit different. Oh, okay, there is a starter set with 13 colors. They must have popped a couple more in there. Apologies for misleading you. I need a grayish color. I think I'm going to use driftwood and maybe some cloudy gray. I want this, I want to kind of bleach out some edges here. Gray it out a little bit. So I'm going to drop a couple drops of driftwood is I mean, it is named this for a reason. It really is one of my favorite wood highlighting colors. You can find a brighter white. Like like the titanium white from any tube paint will be a very bright white, but it will not thin and layer like MSP. So it is all what you are trying to do with the paint. A good painter can work with any paint line on the planet and get exemplary results once they understand the pros and cons of each line. There are many lines out there that are all kind of the same, same kind of viscosity. and they feel the same when you use them. MSP is a bit thinner of a base, so more fluid of a base than those, but it's also a lot more thinnable without separation. Then you've got the tube paint on the other end, right? Which some of it you can thin down like quite a long ways. You usually do have some downsides to that, as it's not meant to do that. So my scale 75 paint definitely loses adhesion when I do that. Solid white and pure white are very similar. Solid white, though, is in a different base and does not thin as well. It's meant to be more solid, thus the name. So pure, if you're looking to layer with anything, pure white. If you're looking for a high coverage white to, maybe underpaint with, then you could go with solid. Solid does employ, as I said, a different base. The paint base really does influence thinability and coverage. So working with a different base that isn't as tuned for thinability means that you get coverage at the loss of smooth blending and transparency and, staying in solution. Coverage is always at the opposite end of the scale as far as like when you're trying to layer. A higher coverage paint often has a thicker bodied base that is naturally prone to falling out of solution unless they do little chemical gymnastics with it. That's why we use a more fluid base with MSP. The more fluid base is tuned to be thinned but still stay in solution. It's not using as heavy of a resin, and I use the word heavy because that's actually what's happening when you see a paint like that fall out of solution. It's heavier than water. There's nothing keeping it suspended after a certain point. This will happen to all paints eventually, but a heavier bodied base will fall out of solution a lot faster. I am going to use a gray and a white. Where's my lighter gray? How about wolf gray? Where's my wolf gray? Do I have my wolf gray? Got rainy. I could use a bone color. Yeah, let's use polished bone. We haven't used that for a while. I feel like I want just a little bit more of a muted out, grayed out highlight on this. Where is my mixing brush? There we are. Yeah, okay, so colors. The mixing the bone color with a brush full of my driftwood brown and getting kind of this, kind of a warm beige, actually. It went warmer than I expected, but probably will still be fine for picking out details. If you get chalky highlights, you're probably over-thinning your paint. Chalkiness is usually a direct result of over-thinning. It can also result from using a lighter paint that isn't as heavily pigmented as some others. So like if you are, some paints are made in a base that has a primary load of white, but they don't otherwise have a lot of pigment added. And sometimes those will go a little chalky. But yes, when you do get chalkiness, if you do get chalkiness, then glaze with your midtone or your shadow. Usually you want to glaze with something that does not have as much white in it, or doesn't have any white in it, depending. All right, so the problem here is that I feel like she's getting dark and I want a black. There we go. Now we can see her a little bit better. She is actually turning into kind of a dark model, so I need to watch that and maybe punch up some of her highlights and stuff to fight that. Yeah, I still have a couple of Vallejo colors that I just really like the color. I did that back in the day too. I had a couple of Partha paints I hung on to just because I liked the color, even though I didn't like a lot else about them. But like, I still really like from Vallejo, I like SS Camo Black Brown. I like Oxford Blue. There's a couple of colors. Beige Brown used to be my go-to. Get a little bit more down here. So essentially we can bring up these with the wood grain texture with just a bit of highlighting instead of shading. I try. Hey, and this is when I actually shill for my Patreon. But thank you. Thank you. Yes, all of my knowledge on this stream is absolutely free. I also have a YouTube channel where I do very short, I just started actually doing a very short series of videos, meaning the videos themselves are short, not that the series is going to be short. And that's the fundamentals of mini painting series. So we have like base coating, we have getting a smooth base coat, which is actually, you know, not as easy as you might think it is. We have how to build your own washes and how to apply washes. I just shot a video yesterday that I'm editing now on lining, why you should do it, what it actually means, how to execute, things like that. I just wanted a series of videos for kind of newbies where I could point them to, these are the fundamental techniques. If you watch these, you're going to have a good idea kind of where to start, and then you can work from that. And then I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/paintingbig. It is my love. I love my Patreon very, very much. It lets me cover a whole bunch of awesome topics and not get as distracted as I do on stream. So we do, and it lets me do PDFs, which I do enjoy putting together PDFs. We still do videos over there too, but this year I'm aiming to do a bit more PDF work over there since I have a lot of video content already between this show and my YouTube. There we go. Let's keep in focus. And yeah, the Patreon has, Army Painter washes, I think are like very much like Minwax washes. So a lot of people really like them. But yeah, so the Patreon is a really good bargain right now because I've been doing it for over 3 years. So there is and I do at least 4 pieces of content a month. So you have a lot. There's a lot over there. So I picked up those little bits between those grooves, and I'm not sure if I like it, but we'll see. I need to pick up the top here. I want to get the edges. And honestly, if you can't hit the wood grain exactly as it's sculpted, you probably can get away not worrying about it too much here. As long as you put that texture in, it's going to read right. But yeah, Patreon has been a real game changer because it is my main means of support. It is my main income. So couldn't do that back when I first tried out freelancing. So it is really... it's made a huge difference to me. It's back when I still had my old dog, Kiri. When I first moved out here, she was definitely not doing great. So I felt like I couldn't really get a real job because she needed so much help and attention. Which then COVID hit, right? So COVID was just hitting as I moved out. So it turned out I couldn't have gotten a real job anyway. But the Patreon has kept me afloat through all that. And after she passed, the Patreon had gotten big enough that I was like, well, I'm going to just try to make a go at it because it'll let me continue to stream for Reaper. You know, if I had to go out and get a job, I couldn't do this show anymore. And it enables me, now we're going to probably get a new puppy this year, and it'll enable me to be home for that puppy and everything. Somebody probably like Ninja gifted you a while ago, Babel. And remember, if you're on my Patreon, if you have a subject that you find a video for it, but it's kind of old and you wish I would do a new one, or you find a video and it's the subject you want, but it doesn't really cover exactly what you're looking for, just drop me a message on the Patreon. Ask me if I can do a redo or do it with something on a different model or a different scale or a different color. I'm always looking for content ideas, and I'm always happy to listen to patron input on that. So obviously, you know, if I wasn't zoomed in so much, you would hardly be able to see a lot of that weathering. It would just register as, you know, lighter areas here and there on the crossbow. But you can see how doing the shading and highlighting has made the crossbow less That's obviously a different color than the fur. It's stopped making the fur look washed out. Cool, Marvel. Well, I'll be happy to have you whenever you feel like joining. I'm not going anywhere. But yes, if any of you have suggestions for more content, just let me know. All right. Because teaching is great, but teaching when I know I'm delivering something that's valuable to people is far more inspiring. That is up to you, Grey Wolf. You may toss your sub into the ever, gorging maw of Reaper Live if you wish. I will not hold it against you. I'm going to darken down the shadows moving up toward this just to get some contrast going on. I mean, Reaper had to buy like a whole new lot and build new buildings to store Bone 6, so There. So I darken that down, get a little bit of contrast going on there, and I may take that and pull it down a little bit here. Blend it into the wood grain just a little bit. Get it a little more organic feeling. Happy Friday Eve. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Trouble. Oh, good, Bevel. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one. That was a while ago. It's a good one. But yeah, I mean, a lot of blending is just mechanics. It's paint, the thinness of your paint and the brush stroke, the kind of brush that you're using. But not a lot of people talk about brush direction and brush strokes. I try to do it because I think with layering it's key. It can certainly make things easier. All right, I'm liking the crossbow now. It's coming out. It's not fighting with her, but it's definitely there. And we've got some nice texture on it. And we'll do the butt of it in a metal. I'm going to add a little bit of highlights here because we get a shadow up here. As you can see, the shadow naturally falling, but then we'd get a little bit of that wood grain detailing through here. See now, Agent Marvel, if you have like all these minis, obviously you need a Patreon to help you paint them all. Crows, I have almost finished my developmental edit notes from my editor on the first book. My cover artist sadly was booked way in advance, so that looks like my book will not be published until I'm aiming for January next year. But as of that point, I'm booking it, so the second book should be out also like within a month of the first book. After that, we'll see. We'll see about the next books. But I'm planning to put out book 1 and book 2 very close together. And I'm still getting rejections from agents. It's funny. It's like I wrote them off long ago. The ones that I'm getting now are the people who really, really seemed to look closely at my work. So it's funny. I don't know. It's amusing. It's like, dude, if it was 90 days ago, I'm taking you off my list and assuming you're not going to get back to me. Welcome to the world of big publishing. It's all right, though. Yeah, it is. So you better run out and get your corned beef, Twisted Oma. Don't want to miss the opportunity, the once-a-year opportunity to like make corned beef and have Reuben sandwiches after. Or in my case, like Reuben tacos with low-carb wraps. David is dubious about the idea of Reuben tacos, but I think it could work. So I am totally going to do it. So doing a bit of the wood grain on the inside here and also on the top of the crossbow here. Yeah. I'm getting my social media set up, crows, so soon enough I'll give you guys the links so you can like follow me on my writer self and get updates that way. You know, all the things you got to set up. New website, new Twitter, new Facebook page. Alrighty. All right. A little bit more here. A little bit more here. There. So that brings up that texture there. Good. Good, Kerniko. That's great. Yeah, lighting is a game changer. Like when you start to really think about light. Oh, that's a good angle, actually, up here. Yeah, I was about to say, like, I did think about, I eat kimchi for lunch regularly, and I thought about trying that instead of the sauerkraut for a Reuben. I thought that might be, like, a little bit weird, but, I mean, technically it should work. It's still, a fermented cabbage, so most sauerkraut's a bit strong for me, too. And, I mean, I grew up in a German family that had sauerkraut with brats all the time, but there we go. Liking this. But yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen Reubens with coleslaw. Because I also like onions on mine, which is not traditional. But I have the Swiss cheese and I bought red cabbage sauerkraut because I like that a little bit better. It's got a little bit more, little less soggy. Usually not quite as strong of a flavor. And I've got my Thousand Island dressing, or Russian dressing, depending on which recipe you look at. Oh, Dad can't do lettuce anymore. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good idea. For traditional feline humiliation. Okay, now you have to post that picture, Kerniko. Gotta post the picture. You cannot talk about dressing up your animals without it appearing on my Discord. Because too cute. Too darn cute. My cat would never have stood for that. Not ever. If you ever started selling tiny knitted cat items on Etsy, you have a ready-made model. Like you have all these pictures. People would buy them optimistically, and then their cat would be like, "What?" And they'd be like, "Oops." But it's too late. Your adorable cat would already have gotten the sale. Oh, okay. Is it there already? Okay. Yeah, that's nice. Split pea and ham soup. Tasty with topping. Is good stuff. Yay, food. I love food. A little bit too much. I think most of us have that problem. Just going to use the side of my brush here to just pick up the edge. When you've got very little paint on your brush, it's an easy way to get a really thin highlight. Today is my social media day, so I might put a picture of my competition entry for Adepticon up. He is slowly progressing. I have a lot of paint time scheduled for him this weekend. So I'll be streaming on Saturday, be aware guys, on my channel at twitch.tv/paintingbig. We're going to be doing 2 hours on him. I'll probably be doing the leather and maybe getting some of his back blocked in. The back is plain, but I'm thinking about doing his name and some texture just to make it more interesting. This is my Privateer Press Grand Master entry. Haven't done competition in a while, so I'm like, I just wanted to enter something. David's got like 7 entries. Thank you for the link, Wendy. If you have not given me a follow over on the Twitch, I would love it if you did. That way it will, well, maybe notify you when I actually go live on Saturday, which will be around 3:30 USA Central Time, 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. Hey, given our debate yesterday, guys, did you see that the Senate actually voted unanimously to end daylight savings switching? Like, for some reason, this never flew before, but it flew this year. You like the daylight savings time trouble? Yeah, and now sleep experts are like, but you made it the wrong one, because they say that more humans are, morning people. So making morning come earlier makes more sense than giving us more evening time. But I think the rest of like America is just like, no, give us more evening time, please. More evening light time. So yes, but they did vote. They did vote to do it. Yeah, hope it passes the House. But it did pass the Senate. And it's never even made it this far before. So this is progress. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you and a lot of people, Trouble, prefer the earlier morning and the earlier night. Must stay DST. Yeah, a lot of people, I think a lot of gamers especially, tend to be more night owls, and so it makes sense that we would like our night to extend, our evening to extend a little bit farther. Interesting, Trouble. We'll see. We'll see. I personally, it doesn't mess me up because I plan for it. I just go to bed earlier. I pretend the day before that it's already in effect, and I go to bed an hour earlier at night, which usually is no problem because I'm usually really tired after a day of work. And I just, adjust just like I would if I was flying to a different state. But I know a lot of people, it really screws them up, so I'm just interested to see if it goes anywhere. All right, we're going to lighten up the back of this crossbow. Same way we did. The reason I'm making the edges more light, by the way, is that that's where the wood is going to be driest. And so that's where it's going to tend to get a little grayer, a little lighter as it weathers. And whereas where things join are more likely to build up like oils and dirt and not get, cleaned off, or, we'll have debris sticking in the join there. So it's naturally going to be a little bit darker. Right, yeah, anybody who needs to be on a routine. Yeah, that's just it, is like it has never been, like, I think it had a unanimous vote in the Senate. Like, 100-0. When does that ever happen? So yeah, so anyway, since you guys were groughing about it the other day, I thought I'd draw your attention in case you missed that. Yeah, it still does have to pass the House, and it may not be, the right time switch for everybody, but I'm neutral. I'm neutral on it. So I'm going to lighten up the edges again here. This is the groove where the bolt goes, I believe. I need a little bit more dark there. I got a little bit of my light into the crack there. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. I need to go back and reread my book on sleep that I bought a while ago, which is a very alarming book. If you tend to short yourself on sleep, if you read this sleep book, you will never do it again, because the physiological, things that it can make happen to you if you short your sleep like a lot. It's scary. It's very scary. I immediately made a note to get more sleep after I read this book. It is a book on sleep, and I think its title just begins as Sleep, but I don't remember the subtitle. But it convinced me that I needed to make sleep a priority, that I could no longer pull the shenanigans that I used to when I was younger. It's true. So I think, I don't know the anatomy of a crossbow very well, but I'm going to assume I need to highlight these. When in doubt, highlight it. Oh no, it's totally a people thing. It's totally a human thing. Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing, Babel. Yep. It's a fascinating book. If nothing else like convinces you that you need to like, try to get better sleep and more of it, like that will. Like I make sleep a priority now. Like I definitely plus I've got with my Fitbit sleep tracker, I can feel it when it's not a good day. When I didn't get good sleep, I definitely feel like more burnt at the ends, for lack of a better way to put it. All right, so we've got a really nice crossbow here. The reason I put the highlight here instead of here is that it's really close to her shoulder here. So I feel like it's getting a shadow from her body and her ear. So that's why we're hitting where the light hit on the corner here. That's why we're doing that way. Now I did get the belt blocked in, and I do want to shade the belt before we end the stream. We should have actually time to shade and highlight. But yeah, sleep quality has a serious impact on us. And then when you roll in stress and how bad stress is for us, and the fact that we all tend to be stressed, it's like we all need to just take a step back and to get more sleep and try to figure out a way to be less stressed. This is key. So I did a bit of a rough line around the tail there, and then I brought in more paint and just kind of wet blended that in. So that I do need to highlight the tail a lot more. Just haven't gotten to it. So just a little bit of a darkening down the middle here. You can see that the belt, either edge is actually sticking out more. It's in a curves in, and then the edges stick out. Ooh, hailing, huh? Funky Korenico. I think I still have pictures on my phone of the giant hailstones we had before I left Texas. There was a point where we did actually get like golf ball sized hail, or a little bit bigger. It was really, really hardcore hearing it on the roof. It's like gunfire. Alrighty. So just lining around my buckle here to bring it out, and now I need to put a little bit of a shadow next to that buckle and bring up some highlights. Oh, it was scary. Let me see. I wonder if I kept the pictures. Let me do a quick search. If I can't find it really fast, then I'll stop. All photos. But this is a good one. Let's see. It's going to be way, way, way back. Okay, I'm going to start from beginning. I've trimmed my photos enough that I should be able to find it if it is still here. I thought I still had it. because it was just like, it was one of those for posterity things that you just keep because you're like, OMG. Almost gonna quit out unless I can find it fast. Maybe I'll have to try to dig it up for later. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I didn't keep it. And unfortunately, I don't remember. Aha! I did find it. Okay, so my mouse, my Overwatch mouse is next to this. That was the size of our hail that day, guys. See the mouse? This was me going out in the yard after it passed over and grabbing the biggest ones. So imagine that hitting your roof. This is why Texas has like extreme weather. Like people's, like if their car was outside, the rear window's shattered. Yeah. So imagine this pummeling out of the sky. Like seriously could hurt people and small animals. Oh. But yeah, so okay, that was March 20, and it was March. It was March 26th, 2017. So yeah, those are you still see the grass clinging to them because it was green grass because it was spring. Yeah, pretty scary, huh? And you can see the impact, right? When it hit and it kind of spread outward. It's really, really, really cool. Yeah, so there you go. There you go, guys. I told you. I have proof. Texas has some pretty crazy ice weather. Like we only get snow like every, once a year, twice a year, or sometimes not at all a year. But ice we get, and ice is scary in Texas. Yeah, that's the only time I ever saw hail that big. Like that year was just crazy. Glad I kept that. I tell people about that, and they're like, yeah, but until you see it with the size reference, and you think about it plummeting out of the sky at high velocity, you're just like, okay, maybe tornadoes are a little nicer. No, not really, but yeah, you get the idea. You start questioning, whether hail is really minor. All right, so I did a little bit of darkening up the grooves there behind the belt. You can see them. Yeah, 2mm hail still sounds really loud. Depending on your roofing. Here, I can't imagine getting hail here. Our roof, like, when it starts to rain at all, you can hear it right through our roof. A little bit of highlighting there. Bring that out. A little bit on the other side. Bring that out. A little bit of highlighting we need on the back. I'm just going to get the edges. If I wanted to really make this belt ripped up, I'd use stippling to get these edges to imply that it was rough on the edge. But her gear's in better repair than that in general, so I feel like that's the way I've set her up anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. It's just a little bit to bring out the belt on the back. Made you appreciate your boring rainy country. Yeah. Well, that's why, I'm not in Texas anymore. Now I'm in the land of like almost no weather. We do get wind. We do get wind. But we don't really get thunderstorms. We get rain, but not really thunderstorms. And the rain is infrequent. All right, I think we managed to get like that crossbow looking pretty good. If I wanted it to look a little more complex, I could actually shade it with some purple or some blue or something like that. We're getting to the end of the stream though, so I'm gonna hold off on that till maybe next time. Maybe we'll take some of our dark blue here, our Storm Chaser, and use it to shade. And what that makes it look is just a little less flat, a little more complex. We'll do that. Maybe I'll remember to do that next time. Otherwise, we might work on metals. And I didn't do the pouch in brown because I wasn't quite sure yet if that's the way I wanted to do it. I may actually do it in black. I think I want to do it in black, maybe with a pink stripe. I think that'd be kind of fun. Yeah, I bet. Crows. Yeah, she's cute. She's coming along. She's definitely sassy. I really like how she's turning out. You'll just think of the hailstones of doom and remind yourself how lucky you are. Yeah, it's always good to remind yourself how lucky you are. It's always good to be grateful for where you are. It could be worse, folks. It could be worse. Yeah, in San Diego. It's similar up here, Big Apple. It's similar up here. I get a little bit of weather up here, but not bad. We actually stole all the good weather, I think. You also, San Diego, stole a lot of the good weather. So, from the rest of the country. Yeah, no tornadoes here either. Yeah, tornadoes also in Texas. That's another Texas weather thing that I don't miss. And we have earthquakes. So, you know. All the birds are out. It's springtime. All right, guys. Well, we did hear. Oh my gosh. No, yeah, your brothers. Well, my mom had brothers like that too, Twisted. They were kind of crazy at times. All right, so tomorrow, guys, guess what? Guess who's here? Tomorrow, for Friday, we have a Friday Kitty. Friday Kitty. We will continue to work on Kitty's fur. Yeah, I've been in one earthquake that was scary. So I may yet live to regret moving back to California, but I'm okay. So we'll see. We'll knock on desk and attempt to ask the earthquake gods to spare me for a while. Alrighty, everybody. So yes, tomorrow we will be working on the kitty. We'll be working on fur. We'll probably be looking at the armor and seeing if I want to do a couple different colors on the armor. I'm thinking about it. So yeah, but we'll get the kitty looking a lot more finished on his fur bits for sure. For sure. See what I did there? Come back to see Josh, as Quindy just said, at 2 p.m. Central for Crafty Creative. Have a lovely St. Patrick's Day. And if you're cooking anything special, I hope it turns out fantastic. You guys have a fantastic day. I will see you tomorrow.